You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts.
All right, Black and White Sports supporters, let's talk a little Shedeur Sanders or a little Cleveland Browns quarterback situation overall. The one thing that's gotten lost in everything because of Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, Joe Flacco's always intriguing because, well, he is the last quarterback that led the Browns to the playoffs. And then you got the enigma wrapped in a riddle known as Old Tiny Hands himself, Kenny Pickett. And they're all trying to vie for this starting quarterback's job. And, of course, this is lying season. There's all kinds. I mean, there's Kevin Stefanski. Dillon Gabriel is his guy. Then there's Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski looking mad as hell right after Shedeur Sanders' name got announced. You've got Joe Flacco, I believe, being the leader in the clubhouse. And look, Shedeur has looked good in a lot of different settings, but then you still got everything that caused him to drop in the draft, along with multiple speeding tickets and so many days, 100 miles an hour, maturity issues, entitlement issues, all these kind of things. What's been lost in all of this is the fact that Andrew Berry strategically gave up Travis Hunter to acquire all these draft assets for next year's draft. Okay? I mean, look, he plans on, if none of these guys work out, they're taking a quarterback at the top of the draft. And next year's quarterback draft is akin to the 2024 draft. 2024, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix Jr., J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix. Well, next year's draft is looking like that sort of draft. All right? Even if you take Arch Manning out of the equation, which I don't think he's coming out, Drew Allar, Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik. I mean, you got real guys that are going to be coming out that are going to be first round. There could be 4 to 6 potentially first round draft picks. And we've already got a prediction that the Browns may be peaking at one of those draft picks already in Drew Allar, the quarterback for Penn State. All right, so, man, it's going to get very interesting. And if Arch Manning declares, holy crap, you're going to see 3 or 4 or 5 teams trying to climb all over themselves to get the number 1 overall pick. So, Drew Allar has an important year ahead, as many believe he could be the top pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. Look, if Arch Manning doesn't come out, I think it's going to be between Garrett Nussmeier and Drew Allar. And I think Nussmeier is the leader in the clubhouse right now. But you never know how this is going to go. We got to remember something. Jaden Daniels, Todd McShay said, was a 5th-round projection prior to his last season at LSU starting. So he went from a 5th-round selection to the number 2 overall pick in the NFL Draft. Plus, we just watched Shedeur Sanders go from a projected number 1 overall draft pick in October or November to being drafted in the 5th round. It can work a lot of different ways. Drew Allar showed some very promising signs last year and returned this season when many thought he might have left and been a first-round pick. If he'd have come out, he might have been the number 1 overall pick. It would have been him and Cam Ward. Instead, he wants to develop under James Franklin for another season, and there's a reason to believe it could work out in his favor. The latest to suggest that he could go number 1 is Sharp Football Analysis, which recently predicted him to be drafted by the Cleveland Browns. Drew Allar would likely replace Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel for the Browns. Yep, it would be a wrap for them. Quote, Allar needs to clean up some decision-making mistakes in his game, the final play of his 2024 season being a prime example. But all the traits are there for him to have his name called early next April. One could argue that Sanders was a better college quarterback than Allar, but it's tough to compare them too closely. The Big Ten is considered the best defensive conference in football, while the Big 12 is often regarded as the worst. Allard has many different tools than Sanders does, including a gun. He's got an actual arm on him. It'll be interesting to see how the Browns perform this year, and they'll also have some tough decisions to make on their front. Yeah, I guess he wouldn't have been taken number 1 overall, but some teams damn sure would have looked at him real hard. But I guess he's thinking if he comes out next year, he's going to be a lock number 1 overall draft pick or close to it. Anyway, so if all this, let's say this doesn't work out for the Browns and they have to move off Shedeur Sanders, I mean, I would assume that another NFL team will at least give Sanders a chance. But if they don't, and he decides he wants to check the CFL out, it is, well, his rights will be held by one Toronto Argonauts. This came out on the 2nd, all right? And it's a list of players' rights, what teams hold what players' rights. You already know the storyline. The bloodline of Shedeur Sanders showed off a $1 million watch to opposing student sections while enjoying his visit to Colorado with his legendary dad, Dion. Can you imagine the buzz around Sanders to Toronto? So Max Duggan's another guy. Trey Lance. Try it out. Ian Book, try it out. What can it hurt at this point? Wow. Chase Claypool. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. So that's where the rights are. Keenan Slovis. This was a guy that was predicted at one time to be a big-time NFL quarterback, and he was a USC guy. And, boy, you want to talk about falling off the map and then bouncing around to a bunch of different entities out there. I would think Shedeur would he would make more money with the CFL. But, I mean, he's not going to need money. I mean, Shedeur's not going to need money. By the way, a lot of good quarterbacks have come out of the CFL. And I'm really shocked that the NFL does not look closer at veteran, longtime CFL guys to at least bring in Jeff Garcia, Joe Theismann, Warren Moon. I mean, there is precedent there. And I have no idea why they don't take a bigger look at some of these, 28 and older CFL quarterbacks, 30 and older. They had one up there. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's won I don't know how many Grey Cups. I think he's too old now. But he would have been a guy I would have been like, don't you think maybe y'all should have looked at this guy 5 years ago? I don't know. Man, the Cleveland Browns are interesting. Tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.